Hey friends, we're Kenny and Elle, and we're the creators of Grow Kids, the children's ministry curriculum and annual strategy from Stuff You Can Use.
In this video, we are going to show you how to strategically plan an entire year of kids ministry in 6 key areas. Those are discipleship, teaching, weekly programming, events, families, and volunteers.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so in this video, we are going to use a lot of examples from Grow Kids curriculum, but you don't actually have to use Grow curriculum in order to find this video helpful. Whether you use our curriculum or not, this video is going to teach you a strategy that you can use, and we will let you steal all of our secrets because we like you.
Yes, we do. And if you are using Grow Kids, this video is going to give you a big head start in planning your year. It will help you see how all of the pieces of your curriculum fit together and why we've placed them on the calendar where we have.
Now, you could watch this whole entire video just on your own, but if you can, we actually recommend going through this video step by step with some other members of your team so that you can all collaboratively plan your year together. So for you Grow users, we have actually made this super easy by giving you physical and printable versions of all of the cards that you're going to see in this video so that you can go and build a board like this one.
And if you are going to build a calendar of your own, here's what you're going to need. First, you're going to need a big blank board. You're going to want to get a bunch of miniature little index cards in at least 6 different colors, thumbtacks, markers, some of your favorite team members, grab some snacks, and get a whole bunch of coffee. And then when you're done, you're going to have a big, awesome, detailed visual representation of everything you're going to be doing in your ministry this year. It's going to help you stay on track. It's going to help you keep your team in the loop. And here's a really cool bonus. It's definitely going to help you impress your boss.
That sounds wonderful. Now, behind us, you will see one of these very fancy, fully assembled Grow strategy calendars. It is an entire year of kids ministry planned out in those 6 key areas that we already mentioned. Now, in just a second, we are going to take this entire board apart so that we can rebuild it together step by step. So for the rest of this video, we will walk through the 6 areas where we believe you need a strategy this year, one at a time. Your discipleship, your teaching, your weekly programming, your events, and your volunteer investment, and your engagement with families.
And here's just a reminder. Everything you see on this board and everything you hear us talk about in this video is available as a resource that you can customize and use in your ministry this year through Grow Kids. Every teaching series, every theme, every event or discipleship activity, every volunteer meeting, discussion, conversation, celebration, they are all included in Grow Kids Curriculum Volume 6. So if you're looking for not just the strategy, but for all of the resources to pull all of this off as well, head to growcurriculum.org for free samples and more information.
Okay, friends, I think we are ready to get started, so let's do it. Okay, so we've got this big empty board behind us, and we are ready to fill it with an entire year of children's ministry strategy in 6 key areas. And again, those are discipleship, teaching, weekly programming, events, volunteers, and families. And right now, we're going to get started by unpacking our annual discipleship strategy.
Yes, and the reason we want to start with discipleship is because we want spiritual growth to be the lens through which we see everything else we're going to do this year. I know every church probably approaches discipleship and spiritual formation just a little bit differently, but here's how we approach it, and feel free to steal this if it works for you. We believe there are 4 spiritual habits that help all of us, kids included, grow closer to God. And they are: spend time with God through personal spiritual disciplines, spend time with others through Christ-like community with both believers and non-believers, know and use your gifts by serving others, and share your story by regularly engaging in conversations about who God is and what God has done for you.
Now, these 4 spiritual habits are not anything new. They have been talked about countless ways by countless numbers of people, and your church is probably already talking about them in your own unique way and with your own unique words. So feel free to change the language to fit your context if you need to. The words here are not important, but here is what is. If these 4 spiritual habits are the behaviors that help kids grow closer to God, then we need a plan in place to help kids engage in these 4 spiritual habits on a regular basis, year after year.
So here's how that looks in the Grow annual strategy. Since there are 4 of these habits, we break our year into 4 quarters, then assign 1 spiritual habit to each quarter and spend 3 months creating experiences, activities, and tools around that one spiritual habit. And that habit, as you'll see, then becomes the lens through which we will view everything else we put on this board in that quarter.
And because these habits are so significant, we don't want to just throw them onto the calendar randomly. We want to think about the most strategic place for each of these habits to live on our annual calendars. So here's what we have landed on. Every fall, we focus on spending time with others because it's the time of year when kids are already thinking about the friendships that they're making and the people who they spend time with. They're moving into new schools, maybe moving up a grade, starting new classes, joining new teams. There is so much changing in their social lives every fall that it is the perfect opportunity to get them thinking about the spiritual habit of engaging in Christ-like community with others. So this year in Grow Kids, we are giving kids a really cool tool and challenging them to use it all year long with their friends, with their family, and with their small groups. And it is the Grow Habit app. It is a habit tracker for kids' spiritual habits. We built this app with really strategic and really safe ways for kids to share their spiritual habits with people who they trust, so they can encourage and celebrate each other when they make progress on their spiritual habits and ultimately their spiritual growth.
Then every winter, we focus on the habit of knowing and using your gifts because the Christmas holidays are coming up, which means your community is going to be filled with opportunities to serve and give. This year in Grow Kids, we're providing everything you need to do an activity or an event called the Show and Tell Talent Show. With this activity, kids will get a chance to show off some of their unique gifts and talents, but they'll also be challenged to use those gifts and talents to serve and love others at the same time. And then every spring, after you've built some trust with kids and families over the course of the year, we think that's the perfect time to go deeper by focusing on the spiritual habit of spending time with God. This year, to help you do that, we've created an activity called the Musical Memory Verse Challenge, where kids will replace the lyrics of some of their favorite or most memorable songs with the words to Bible verses that they want to memorize.
And lastly, we have the spiritual habit of sharing your story. We focus on this spiritual habit every summer because it is the time of year when a lot of churches are often thinking about mission experiences. Plus, it's a great time to get kids thinking and excited about the upcoming school year and all the ways that they can share the story of Jesus with others in the coming months. So this year in Grow Kids, we are providing an activity called My Storybook. It's a scribbly, journal-style workbook with really fun prompts and activities that will help kids communicate who Jesus is to them and how God has already shown up in the stories of their lives. So that is what the Grow discipleship strategy looks like. And now it is your job to take these ideas, to make them fit within your unique context, or maybe to come up with your own discipleship ideas if you like, and to work out some of the details of what this could look like in your church. Cool? Great. Go.
Hello and welcome back. Now that we have our orange discipleship cards on the board, it is time to move to our next layer, which is an annual teaching strategy. Now, if you're using Grow Curriculum, you know that we love to color code all of our resources just to help keep things straight. Now, discipleship is always orange, and our teaching resources are always red. Of course, you can use whatever colors you want, but if you want to be like the cool kids, red is the color you're going to want to use this round.
Okay, so down to business. Now, every year, it is so important to plan ahead for the topics and the scripture that you plan to cover with kids. Now, I know it is really easy to fall into this trap of just choosing random curriculum or spending your weekends Googling free kids ministry lessons with no prep required, but we think you can do a little better than that, and we are actually here to help you make that happen. So, because here's the thing, when we fail to plan ahead with our teaching calendar, we run the risk of missing some really big, important ideas, of teaching only the topics that personally interest us most, and ultimately failing to give our kids a full and holistic view of God. And that is a really, really big deal. So please plan ahead.
Yes, and there are so many ways to approach a scope and sequence for kids ministry, but Here's how we do it. In the Grow, Scope, and Sequence, we will take kids through every major Bible story over the course of 3 years. Then, at the end of those 3 years, we start all over. We spend an equal amount of time in the Old Testament that we do in the New Testament. And the Old Testament is taught chronologically over the course of 3 years, while the New Testament is taught chronologically every single year, but with different stories. And we always start with Jesus' birth, and then we end in the early church. And then we'll switch from the Old Testament to New Testament stories in December with the birth of Jesus, and switch back to the Old Testament in June, 6 months later. Then when the 3 years are up, we start all over again. I know that just sounded like a very complicated math problem, but trust us, it's organized in a very user-friendly way, and we have a beautiful PDF to help you visualize it.
So beautiful. Now, once you have all of the stories that you want to cover identified for the year, place them on the calendar in order. But this is big. Don't forget to consider how you can strategically align your teaching calendar with the spiritual habits that you're focusing on every quarter. That is why we're putting everything up on one board, so that we can see how every aspect of our ministries works together and hopefully doesn't work against each other.
All right, here's a quick overview of this year's teaching calendar from Grow Kids curriculum and why we've placed each teaching series where we've placed them. If you're starting Grow for the very first time, we recommend starting with Blast Off, our series that covers the 4 spiritual habits of our discipleship strategy. With Blast Off, you'll give kids a look at all 4 habits by looking at 4 stories from the Gospels and how these stories teach us the importance of each spiritual habit 1 week at a time. So place that on your calendar whichever month you plan to get started. But to keep this video simple, we're only going to talk about the 12 series in the Volume 6 Scope and Sequence.
For this video, we are going to assume August is the beginning of a new school year. But if you happen to be in a hemisphere where your school year starts in January, that is okay. With Grow and with the strategy, you can get started anytime. It is all customizable. But for the sake of this video, we're going to start in August, but you can start any month you want. In our fall quarter, we always cover Old Testament stories with New Testament connections. This August, it's a series from the Psalms called Wonderful, where we will talk about 4 ways that we can worship God, not just with our words, but with our whole lives and with our hearts too. In September, we will cover prophets like Jeremiah, Jonah, and Elijah, plus a little bit of Nehemiah, with a series called Animated. And then to wrap up the first quarter in October, we will talk about the story of Daniel in a series called Hear Me Roar. This series is all about being bold because God is with us.
And then in November, we'll wrap up our time in the Old Testament with a series about Esther called Behind the Scenes. This series will end with the nation of Israel still divided and in exile and leave us waiting for the birth of Jesus, which then in December will transition into the New Testament with a Christmas series called City of Angels, where we'll tell the classic Christmas stories from Scripture, but with a focus on how God sent angels to deliver some important messages every step of the way. And then in January, now that we're in the New Testament half of our year, we'll do a series called Measure Up, which is about Jesus' early life and ministry. So we'll spend 5 weeks learning not only how Jesus grew up, but thinking about how Jesus wants to help us grow too. And that wraps up our winter quarter.
To kick off our spring quarter, in February, we're doing another series from the New Testament called How To. This one is about Jesus' teachings and will give us 4 things that Jesus taught us how to do. After that, in March, we'll do a series called Changing Gears, which will showcase 4 times that Jesus changed things through his ministry, while helping kids see that Jesus is still changing things for us today. So that is 4 months spent in the New Testament so far, but we still have 2 before we switch back to the Old Testament. So in April, our Easter series is called Rise and Shine, and it helps kids see how Jesus is alive, not just on Easter Sunday, but every single day.
And then in May, we'll kick off our summer quarter and wrap up our time in the New Testament with a series on the early church called Heroic, where kids will meet some of their heroes of the early church and be encouraged to be heroic themselves too. For the rest of the summer, we'll head back to the Old Testament for 2 more series. And then remember, this volume is where our 3-year scope and sequence reset. So in June, we've got Make It or Break It, which takes us all the way back to the beginning of the Bible for the stories of creation, the fall, and early humanity. And finally, in July, the series Staycation will introduce us to Abraham and his family.
So that's what our teaching strategy looks like for this year. But now it is your turn to customize and make this strategy work for you. So go look at your church calendar, figure out what stories and books of the Bible that you want to teach this year, in what order and in which months. Find out if your church is doing any like church-wide campaigns or teaching series that could affect your kids, and then adjust accordingly. And think about the rhythms of your kids and your community and their families, and make sure to make adjustments to fit your church's unique needs. And don't forget to compare what you're teaching to your discipleship strategy so that you can see how both of these strategies can support and reinforce each other. And remember, all of this is customizable, so take what works for you and adjust what doesn't.
The point is this: you need a teaching strategy. And when you align your teaching strategy with your discipleship strategy, you'll be able to focus and reinforce those big ideas so much more effectively. So go ahead, build your board, make it your own, and then start dreaming about some of the specifics of what your teaching could look like over the year. And then in this next part, we're going to talk about your weekly programming. All right, have fun.
Okay, now for your next installment of strategy planning. In this session, we are talking about a strategy for your weekly program. Now, the last session about your teaching calendar was pretty intense, so you'll be happy to know that this next one will be a little bit lighter.
Yes, and when you begin to develop your teaching strategy in more detail, you'll probably want to plan some interesting weekly programming events like special decor, songs, activities, maybe some good snacks or crafts to enhance that month's teaching. This is so important because if you really want your teaching to stick, having a really fun monthly theme that reinforces what you're teaching is actually super helpful. So for this round of planning, we're going to assign a monthly decorating theme to each teaching series. But they won't just be random themes like Pirates and Paul or Toy Stories and Exodus. They're going to be themes that directly complement what you're already teaching.
And when we say themes, there is a lot that we could include in that. There's decor, graphics, music, special funny characters, costumes, props, puppets, activities, playlists. Listen, the possibilities are endless. But remember, if you are using Grow Kids curriculum, we have thought through all of this for you. And if you're not using Grow, that is totally cool. Feel free to steal all of these ideas and make them happen on your own. Either way, here are the monthly themes that we are doing in Grow Kids this year and how they connect to what we're teaching.
For the introductory series Blast Off, which you get as a little freebie, since we're talking about how to launch your faith in Jesus to greater heights, we'll be using the theme of rocket ships in outer space. Think space-themed activities and games, decor and graphics that use planets and stars and rocket ships, coloring pages, object lessons, all of that stuff will be outer space themed. And when we talk about worshiping our Creator in August series, Wonderful, we'll focus on some of the wonderful things God has made by looking at some of our planet's most amazing natural wonders. So natural wonders is our theme. And when we cover the big feelings felt by Jeremiah, Jonah, Elijah, and Nehemiah in animated, we'll use animated movies and characters to help us better express and understand our big feelings. That's why our theme is cartoons. And when we tell the story of Daniel, we'll have lots of fun with a zoo animal theme in honor of one of the most famous Daniel stories, The Lion's Den.
For our series on Esther, we're exploring how God worked behind the scenes to rescue God's people. So we're going to take that behind the scenes theme literally and give the series a kids theater theme, complete with props, curtains, a stage. You get the idea. Our Christmas series, City of Angels, will have, of course, a Christmas theme, but more specifically, it's going to have a really fun urban Christmas feel to it as we journey from the city where Jesus was born to the cities that we live in today. Then in Measure Up, where we're talking about Jesus' early life and ministry, we will give this series a super fun amusement park theme to help us think about growing up and, finally getting tall enough to ride that roller coaster that we've been waiting to ride.
In How To, we'll pair the theme of step-by-step tutorials with some of the practical teachings of Jesus, and in Changing Gears, we'll use robots and all their gadgets and gears to talk about how Jesus changes everything. And then our Easter series, Rise and Shine, takes us outside for a day on a farm as we explore the miracle of new life, both in nature and through Jesus.
Heroic, which is our series on the early church, will use a superhero theme to talk about the heroes of the New Testament and the supernatural things God did through them. Then, as we head back to Genesis for Make It or Break It, we'll be using a building blocks theme to talk about all of the incredible things that God built in Genesis and all of the things we humans tend to break. And finally, in Staycation, our series on Abraham and his family, we'll use the theme of a stay-at-home vacation to talk about not only Abraham's family, but our families as well.
And that's the plan for Volume 6 of Grow Kids. And remember, no matter which curriculum you're using, the point is you need a strategy for your weekly programming. And a great way to make your weekly programming more strategic is to give it a theme that complements your monthly teaching. So that's the basic idea. Draft up some monthly themes, or use ours, then stick them on the board below your teaching cards. Once they're all up there, you might notice some things like, you know what? I don't know if this theme will actually fit with our kids. Let's swap it for something else. Or maybe every June your church does a big church-wide campaign, so go ahead, change the theme to better connect with what your church is doing. Whatever you decide to do for your kids, just remember this. You can be a lot more effective with your teaching by pairing it with a strategic monthly theme. And you can be a lot more efficient by planning those themes out in advance a whole year at a time. So go ahead and do it. Plan away, like right now. Get to work. Let's make this happen. And don't forget, have fun.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you are feeling great about your planning board so far. Now, we've already covered 3 areas that are all about kids with our discipleship, teaching, and weekly programming strategies, but we have one more strategy to talk about that relates directly to kids, and that is your event strategy.
Events are a pretty big deal for most children's ministries. They're a way to have fun, connect with families, and get new people in the door, as well as create some excitement about your church. Now, those things are all really important, but if we're honest, we probably know we can overdo it sometimes with our events. Maybe too many events. Maybe it's too much money spent on events, too much emphasis put on our events, or too many events with not enough strategy.
Yeah, now events matter, but we really do have to keep things in perspective. That's why we are fans of keeping your event strategy really, really simple, because you can make a bigger impact each year if you choose to do fewer events with more intentionality. So here is our recommendation for keeping your event strategy for kids simple in your ministry. Do one event each quarter plus a VBS, and that's it.
Okay, here's how that looks on our calendar. In the fall, we suggest doing a fun family event. And since this quarter is all about the spiritual habit of spending time with others, maybe use this event as an opportunity to let kids and families strategically connect with each other. In Grow Kids Volume 6, our fall event is a fun and really affordable game night event called Trick Shots and Treats. It's inspired by Dude Perfect-esque tricks and comes with lots of candy. Then in the winter, remember that families are probably pretty busy and a little short on cash leading up to the holidays, so do a simple, fun, and maybe even free event for families that allows them to make some holiday memories together. This year in Grow Kids, we're doing a Christmas campout. It's an indoor camping experience with some Christmas spirit.
And in the spring and summer, when the weather is warming up and families are looking for some fun things to do out of the house, do some fun events that get families together and maybe even make them open to your whole community. So this year in Grow Kids, we are giving you everything you need to plan a super fun chocolate factory-inspired carnival called the Golden Ticket Tour for the spring. Use that right around Easter if you want to. And for the summer, we're giving you a highly recyclable game and craft night called Cardboard Party. And finally, don't forget to add a VBS to your event strategy. Depending on your context, you might do this in May or June or July, whatever works for you. But hey, every year, Grow Kids produces a free, complete VBS resource, so you'll have everything that you need to make this event happen.
All right, you know the drill at this point. Next up, take your event cards, throw them up on the board in whatever way works best for you and your church context, and then spend some time thinking about what actually each of these events might look like and what your goal for each event might be. And don't forget, have fun.
Okay, friends, you have now officially wrapped all of your planning that has to do directly with kids, but now we're moving on to another group of people you lead, your volunteers. Now, there are 7 ways to invest in volunteers, and all 7 of them really need to be represented on your annual calendar. Maybe that sounds a little overwhelming at first, but it really doesn't have to be, promise.
Yeah, and just to warn you, there are going to be a lot of cards for this annual volunteer strategy because we believe if you want to be effective as kids pastors, you really do need to get serious about investing and empowering the volunteers that you lead. But when we do that, we actually multiply our influence. We increase the capacity of our ministry, and we give kids a better shot at building a lifelong faith. Because all the research shows that young people, they don't need just one kids pastor. They need an entire community of adults who are investing in them and in their faith. Plus, if you want your volunteers to invest in kids, it's probably a good idea if you invest in them first.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Now, when planning your year of investment in volunteers, you're going to need to consider these 7 things: volunteer events, volunteer meetings, volunteer discussion groups, one-on-one conversations with volunteers, volunteer tools, volunteer communication, and volunteer celebration. And again, we know that that sounds like a lot of things, but while all 7 of those things do need to be built into your calendar, there are ways to build them in that really are not overwhelming. And we get it. We've been pastors and actually developed this strategy while we were still pastors at our church. We didn't have countless hours to spend leading volunteers, so we were really intentional about doing things that required the least amount of work, but for the biggest impact.
All right, so with that in mind, let's break down each of these 7 things and give you an idea of what's included in Grow for each of them. First, you have volunteer events. We have just one of these each year in August to kick off the school year. This volunteer kickoff event is designed to be your one major vision casting moment of the year. It comes with inspiration, practical training, helpful tools, and relationship building to get your team off on the right foot. And with Grow, you already have everything you need to pull it off, so that's pretty cool.
Next, we have meetings. Now, meetings are any environment where you are training volunteers on a specific subject related to their specific needs as a volunteer. But here's the thing. If you can say something in an email, just send an email. Don't call a meeting. Save your meetings for the really good stuff, the times that you want to teach something and discuss something and spend time with your team. So our recommendation is getting together with your whole team all together every other month. That is 6 times a year. But remember, we already have an August get-together planned because of the fall kickoff. So we'll count that as our first meeting. We'll skip September and put the next meeting in October, skip November, but then we've got December, and nobody wants to have an informational meeting in December. So let's replace that meeting with a Christmas party. Then we'll add a meeting to February and then to April. But then June is the end of the school year. So instead of doing a big formal meeting, let's do another party.
So that's 6 get-togethers with your team throughout the year, including your annual kickoff event and a couple of parties. That means you have 3 windows this year to train your team on something specific. So what do you want to train them on? If you're using Grow, you have access to tons of volunteer meeting outlines. Some are general meetings, while others are specific to certain types of volunteers, like maybe your special needs team or your small group leaders. However you organize this is completely up to you. But here's the point. Plan to meet with your team throughout the year in a rhythm that works best for you and your church. And when you do, teach them something really helpful.
Next, we have discussion groups. A discussion group is a type of volunteer get-together that honestly transformed our ministry's volunteer culture. In a discussion group, you flip traditional forms of volunteer training on their heads. Instead of training your volunteers like you are the expert, even though, of course, you are an expert, a discussion group is all about asking questions that get your volunteers sharing stories, talking to each other, and helping each other solve problems. These discussion groups are all about spotlighting your incredible team of volunteers as the experts that they are, and then learning from them and with them for a change. How many of these groups you do every year will depend on how many volunteers you have, but we recommend doing them at least once a year, but no more than 6 times a year. And when you do them, schedule them during months when you don't already have an event, a meeting, or a party scheduled.
All right, next we've got one-on-one conversations with volunteers. These conversations are another way to connect with your volunteers, and we recommend putting these on your calendar every single week if you can, or at least every single month. In these one-on-ones, the goal is to give feedback to your volunteers about how they're doing and also to receive feedback from them about how your ministry is doing at equipping and supporting them.
Next, we have one of my favorite ways to invest in volunteers, and those are your volunteer celebrations. We are big believers that what you celebrate in ministry gets repeated, and that honoring your volunteers for who they are is a huge part of creating a volunteer culture that makes volunteers want to serve with you. So every month, we recommend celebrating a weird holiday with your volunteers in a way that appreciates them or just makes a fun memory with them. So maybe that is a DIY cupcake decorating station on National Cake Decorating Day, or maybe it is a mysterious thank you card that can only be read in the mirror for Backward Day. Whatever it is, the point is that you take time every month to make your volunteers feel cared for. And sending weekly thank you cards and monthly birthday cards are also a great idea.
All right, next, we've got communication. Because if you're going to invest well in your volunteers, you're going to need to communicate with them well. We recommend communicating with your team every single week. And that's why Grow Kids gives you all the emails you need for an entire year already written and designed. We also provide 12 volunteer tip videos to help them with some small but specific things and a social media plan with images, captions already done for you to help you stay in touch about what you're teaching every single week. And new to Grow Kids this year, we have Hubs, a communication tool that's free for all Grow users. It lets you share information, upcoming events, announcements, and even your curriculum with volunteers on your team. And did we mention it's free for Grow users?
And last but not least, volunteer tools. By this, we mean any resource that you give your volunteers to make their jobs easier. So on the calendar, you'll see volunteer tools like a volunteer handbook, business cards, a volunteer survey, volunteer goals, and volunteer t-shirts. We suggest giving these tools away in August to begin the year and then refreshing them throughout the year or at your volunteer meetings.
And you're done. You've got a full year of volunteer strategy on the board, or at least we do. Now you are next. Feel free to copy as much of our strategy and calendar as you like. Then change the rest to fit your unique context. This volunteer strategy honestly revolutionized our ministry for the better, and we really hope that it does the same for you. Because remember, you're not just a pastor to kids. You are a pastor to your volunteers too. Now, have fun planning.
Oh my goodness, friends, you are almost there. Can you believe it? You have already planned so much ministry for the next year, but you've got one last area where you still need to map out a strategy. And the very last thing that you need to strategize in your annual planning meeting is the thing that we kids pastors sometimes save until last, and that is how you will engage the whole family.
Yes, and when it comes to families, let's be honest. We could all do a better job of engaging them. For some of us, sometimes even just acknowledging the existence of kids' parents or caregivers would be a good step forward. But no matter how new or how seasoned you are at engaging families in your ministry, we hope that the strategy that we're about to unpack will give you a framework for your family strategy that you can replicate and improve year after year after year. All right, here we go.
Now, we are convinced that the key to engaging and investing families and parents and caregivers effectively is to plan an annual strategy in 4 ways. And you might recognize some of this language from our volunteer strategy. And those are family events, parent discussion groups, parent communication, and parent tools. And just keep in mind, when we say parent, we mean any caregiver who is in a parental role.
All right, let's start with events. Like we've already said, we recommend doing the fewest events you can manage for the biggest impact. Each year, we love the idea of doing 2 or 3, depending on your calendar, strategic events for parents, and we include those each year in Grow. In August, there's the Move Up Day and Open House. These 2 events can be combined into one event if that works better for your calendar. Move Up Day, of course, is the day that all kids move up to their new grades and age groups, and an open house is designed to introduce new families to your ministry and expose them to your ministry philosophy and strategy.
Then in October each year, we recommend doing a parent and small group leader breakfast, which is an event that connects the parents of kids with the small group leaders of their kids and helps them all connect over a common goal, which is influencing and caring for the kid that they both love. Now, we love doing this event in October every year because the school year is already in progress. Small groups are probably somewhat consistent, and there has been plenty of time for your small group leaders to meet and connect with families before the event. We love this event. At our church, we did it every single year, and within 30 minutes of our very first attempt, we could, for real, already see our ministry culture shifting in some really big ways.
And then every January, or whenever you'd like, we recommend hosting a parent workshop. That's an event where you provide parents and caregivers practical training on how to love, lead, and disciple the kids in their care. This year in Grow Kids, our parent workshop is tackling the topic of how to disciple your kids at home. And if your church is using Grow Students curriculum, the parent workshop for parents of teenagers will align with what we're teaching the parents of kids. And on top of that, these annual events we just mentioned, don't forget that you're already including parents in the quarterly events you do for kids. So be sure to think strategically about how to invest in families there too.
Next, we've got parent discussion groups. And kind of like we talked about with the volunteer discussion groups, parent discussion groups are environments where you get to learn from and with real parents of kids. We recommend doing 1 or 2 of these every year, whenever your least busy months are for families. Once you've got parents in the room, you're going to want to ask questions to tap into their expertise as parents of kids. What can you learn from them? What are their biggest struggles? And how can you better serve them?
And third, we've got parent tools. Throughout the year, there are so many helpful and practical tools that you could potentially give the parents of kids to help serve and equip them. But here are a few that Grow provides. In August, we recommend giving parents a parent handbook to better understand your ministry's mission and strategy. Volunteer business cards with the names, photos, and contact information of their kids' adult leaders, and also an annual parent survey to help you learn about how to best serve and communicate with families. We also recommend providing those same tools again in October at your parent and adult leader breakfast event, and having extras on hand whenever you need them.
And finally, we have parent communication. We recommend sending parents an email once every month with information about what's happening in your ministry and resources that will help serve and equip them as parents. In Grow, we've actually written and designed all of these emails for you already. Plus, we created 12 parent tip videos that you can send to parents every month, or you can reshoot them using our scripts with members of your team. We also give you monthly and weekly take-homes for your parents, depending on which rhythm works best for you, which you can print, email, or both. And just like we said when we talked about our volunteer strategy, new to Grow Kids this year is Hubs. It is a communication tool that is free for all Grow users. It lets you share information, upcoming events, announcements, and even your curriculum with the families that you're communicating with. And yes, it is free for Grow users.
All right, there you have it. We are officially out of cards and this board is looking so beautiful. Hopefully yours is looking just as nice. All right, now here's your final assignment for the day. Go and plan out your entire family strategy for the year, but then take a look at everything that you've done and accomplished in this planning meeting. Is there anything that you'd like to change or tweak now that you can see it all up on the board? Are there any pieces of your calendar that you'd like to get feedback on before you finalize them? Or maybe is there anyone who couldn't make it to this meeting, but whose voice you'd really like to hear from before you finish planning? Now, if you've answered yes to any of these questions, go do something about it. Don't just let this become another project left unfinished. Really, this one you should do. Make it awesome. We know that it's a lot to do and a lot to think about, but as the year goes on and your calendar fills up, you will be so happy that you did this.
And friends, thank you so much for hanging with us, but more importantly, thank you for all that you do for kids and for the adults who lead and parent them. We know that this kids ministry thing is usually a pretty thankless job, so if no one has told you this recently, thank you. Your ministry is so important, and we are so excited that you've taken the time to be so much more intentional and strategic and prepared for this upcoming year of ministry. You are amazing, seriously.
All right, have a great rest of your meeting and a great year of ministry. You guys are awesome. We'll see you later.
Bye.